Okay, so this was just an optional thing I wanted to do if you were struggling with identifying a transformation, because it is a little confusing knowing exactly what happened, but we just wanted to go through some examples and see if this makes a bit more sense. So in the test, when the transformation is a rotation or reflection, you do have to say what kind. So if it's a 90-degree clockwise, if it's a 90-degree counterclockwise, if it's 180, if it's a 270, keep in mind that, again, a 90-degree clockwise rotation is also a 270-degree counterclockwise. So it's possible it's one of those answers. You might have one or the other, but it's the same rotation. If it's a reflection, you have to say, is it over the Y or X axis? I believe there's no examples in the test where it's like, oh, this is a reflection over Y equals 1. It's usually just the axes. When it's a translation, though, all we have to do is say translation. And really the key thing here, how we initially tell if it's a translation, reflection, or rotation, is on the orientation of the points. Once you have determined that it is one of those three, then you can go, okay, what type of rotation, what type of reflection? You first determine what the basic thing is, and then we can say, okay, yeah, it's a 90-degree or it's over the y-axis or something like that. Now, orientation, again, refers to the order the points lie in on our graph. So let's look at this example. We want to know what this transformation is. So take a moment and try and think. Look at the orientation of the points between these two shapes. What do we think, what type of transformation this is? This is a translation, actually. And here's the reason why. Notice the points are oriented the exact same way. This goes A, B, C. This goes A, B, C. Top, right, left. Top, right, left. Yeah? They're oriented the same way. So if that doesn't make sense to you, write it in a way that makes sense, but they are oriented the same way. The points go in the same order, right? B is to the right over here, C is to the left, that's the same, and A is at the top. That's how we know that's a translation. And once we know it's a translation, it was just slid. We don't do anything else. We just say, yep, it was a translation, and we can move on. Let's try another example. And again, you want to think, how did we know? So looking at this example here, we want to think what type of transformation. So what we do first is we're going to go down the list. You start off by saying, is it a translation? Because that's easiest to identify. Again, with the translation, the points are in the same order. Top, right, left, top, right, left. Looking here, we'll try and check this out first. Looking from A, B, from the regular letters to the prime letters. Do the points go in the same order? No, they don't. This cannot be a translation because this is A, B, D, C. Notice that A is the top left corner, B is the top right corner. When I come over here, oh, A is not in the top left corner, B is not in the top left corner. I didn't just slide this shape over. Otherwise, the points would be oriented the same. This cannot be a rotation. Sorry, translation. What we look at next is, how are the points oriented then? Is it a flip or is it kind of a different order? Looking at these points, if you notice, this is a flip. This is a reflection. B matches up with B, D mirrors D, A mirrors A, and C mirrors C, right? This is a flip over that line. So this is a reflection, and then we need to say over which line. Now we can tell it just went, yeah, it flipped over. This line is now, I did this very terribly. This should be a reflection. There we go. I should bump that back. Because it needs to be the same distance away, right? B is 2 away here, B is 2 away here. So it flipped over this line. What is this line? This is the y-axis. Again, for the identifying ones, they're really only going to have you do the axis. Vertical axis is y, horizontal axis is x. So again, how we knew is the points mirror each other. B mirrors B, D mirrors D, A mirrors A, C mirrors C. They are not oriented the same way, so it cannot be a translation. They mirror each other. Again, notice the difference between these two. All my points are in the same order here. I just slid my shape over. This one, we flipped it. Now, this is a non-example, so this is not a reflection. Even though it looks like this shape, if I didn't have the letters, for example, if we didn't have the letters, this could be a reflection. Granted, it could also be a translation, because this point here and this point here, they are the same distance away from the y-axis, but notice the orientation of the points. If this were a reflection, B would mirror B, and it doesn't. This is B and D prime. These are not mirror versions of each other. Same thing. A would mirror A, but it doesn't. This is C prime. So this is not a reflection. Yeah. Even though it looks like, okay, well, it can't be a translation, this is not a reflection either. The points do not mirror each other. Once again, B to B, D to D, B to no, that's not a reflection. So that's how we can tell. Okay, let's looking at this one now. So we need to tick off the boxes. Yes. Is this a translation? That's always the first one we check. No, definitely not, because a translation keeps the orientation the same. A translation would take this and just slide it around, but it would not change the way it's oriented. This is definitely not a translation. It's not just like slid. Let's check for a reflection now. Whoops, I delete. Okay, so we just said it's not a translation, because again, it's not just slid. That's definitely not preserving the orientation of the points. Now let's look at, could it be a reflection? Now it looks like possibly, it looks like it might have flipped over this line, right? We just kind of, but we have to check the points. The points have to mirror each other, and they don't. A and B prime, those are not mirrored points, right? If this was a reflection over the x-axis, this would be A and A prime, B and B prime. The points would have to mirror each other, and they don't. So therefore, this has to be a rotation. However, since it is a rotation, we do have to see which kind. There's a couple different ways you guys can do this. Again, a 90-degree turn, for example, is a quarter turn. If I want to do a full turn, this is a quarter turn, a full half, 3/4, and then back to a full turn. Yes, if AB wanted to go around in a circle, it would go this way, right? So if you know what a quarter turn is, that's 90 degrees. If you know what a half turn is, that would be through here. That's 180, 270, and then 360. However, here's another way to look at it, and I want to see if this helps you make sense. If visually you know what this answer is, great, you're good to go. But here's a way to look at it. We know what our formulas are for rotations. If you determine it's a rotation, which again we already did, the points are not mirrored versions of each other. This is definitely not a translation. This is a rotation. What you can do is pick one point. So I'm going to pick A and A prime. Be careful that they're matching points. It has to be A and A prime, not A and B prime, right? So what you want to do is get the points for each and see if you can tell which formula was applied. Go ahead and get the points for A and A prime. Okay, A is negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then up 3. 1, 2, 3. So that's a positive 3. Again, guys, if you cannot accurately write the points down, this test will be more difficult than it should be. So A prime is negative 1, 2, 3. And then down 7, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. Okay. So we got, I'm going to go ahead and cut this. Okay. So what we want to do here is figure out which formula was applied and just kind of go down the list. The first formula we have is my original points are here. I end up at y negative x. That means that my points switch. And then the second letter, the x changes. Here, this means my points switch and the y changes. Here, my x and my y stay in the same spots, but they are opposites. So take a look at this one. I want you to take a moment, see if you can figure out which formula was applied. Okay, so let's see. So if we look right here, I was originally at negative 7, 3, and then these switched, right? So to start with, it can't be 180 degrees because in the 180 degrees, the x and y don't switch, right? It goes x, y, x, y. So it has to be one of these. Now let's look at our signs. So we switched, and then we need to see which sign changed. So this is now yx. Let's look at our original yx. This was, again, x and y here. So x was negative 7, and over here it is still negative 7. So that means the x did not change. But if we notice, the y was here a 3, and now it's a negative 3. So this is our formula that was applied. That means our answer here is 90 degrees counterclockwise. And again, we know because we see the formula that was applied. Right, my boy. Here's a good flippy. Major's right here. Counterclockwise. We can see what formula was applied. And again, we only had to look at one letter to do it. We didn't need to look at all of the letters. We can just see right away which one it was. So I want you to try it one more time on the next one because I know some people were struggling with this. So hopefully to start with, you realize, is this a translation? Nope. This is not just slid. That's definitely a flip at least, yeah? But is this a reflection? Also no. We could only flip it here or here, at least for what we've learned so far. So this is definitely not a reflection. This is a rotation. What I want you to do is take point A and point A prime and see if you can figure out what a formula was applied for this rotation. Go ahead and give it a shot. Okay, here's A, 1, 2, 3, 4, comma, I believe it's 8, yeah. And A prime is negative 1, 2, 3, 4, and then down 8. Okay, so notice what happened. Did our X and our Y switch? Nope, it's still 4, 8, 4, 8. So if your X and your Y do not switch, this is guaranteed to be a 180-degree rotation. All that happened was our signs changed. This was a positive, now it's a negative. This was a positive, now it's a negative. That's all that happened. Guaranteed, if the X and the Y number is the same, it's a 180-degree rotation. Now the hard part is with this, being able to focus when there are 3 shapes on the picture. But if you can focus from A to A prime, and then A prime to A double prime, using these strategies, I hope it will help out.